may have, effect on us here. So we will need the Minister of Trade, for instance, to come up here. But I agree with you.
Yes, well, I mean, I get the point you're making, Claire. On the harassment, as it were, of Nigerian traders in Ghana, it is now becoming a recurring incident. A couple of years ago it happened, but the most dramatic, of course, was in 1969, when Nigerians, who were in Ghana were asked to leave. And then, of course, we had a repeat ourselves, or a retaliation in 1983, which gave rise to the expression "Ghana must go." During the Second Republic, when on account of the influx of Ghanaians, they were asked to relocate. But our borders are still wide open, and everybody comes in and goes out, and those who are good investors, as it were, have Nigeria as a haven, and our doors are wide open. But it's important for Nigerians to be protected wherever they are.
Exactly.
And that's a very key thing. We'll also involve the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Yes, and indeed we want to use this opportunity to reach out to the various ministers, concerned with this matter. Of course, it's a topic we would want to discuss here on Good Morning Nigeria because of its importance. But we go on now with our business news, and federal government has reiterated, okay, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking business.
Jig in the water, we'll get school uniforms whiter, and it is the tough stain fighter that will get your whites much brighter. Just Jiggins! Pot puree and lemon. Just Jiggins! Hey, you better go get it! Now available in lemon and pot puree fragrances, the newest and freshest way to Jiggins. Shopee has ensured the reconstruction of the Abuja Lokoja Road and the East-West Road in Port Harcourt.
The standard gauge rail tracks from Abuja to Kaduna and Lagos to Kano indicate that our trains are coming back.
The second Niger Bridge in the southeast and the local Oweto Bridge in the north central are in progress, thanks to Shopee.
Shopee's mass transit program has made transportation easier for Nigerians.
Shopee has rehabilitated over 1,000 health centers across Nigeria.
Shopee has provided mama kits to pregnant women, and polio is on the verge of eradication.
Shopee has also ensured the provision of social amenities, and through its various training programs for young people, guarantees a better future.
Shopee, delivering service with integrity.
Fashion design, I get to travel the world a lot. In most of these places I go to, I roam my line, and to receive quotes is absolutely free. Being able to relate to customers wherever I am, and it's still the same quality, it's amazing. One of the key parts to me is the weddings by my brand. It's very pleasing to be part of these people's life. So you can say there are a lot of similarities between myself and Etisalat. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Etisalat and I, we cut from the same cloth.
Switch to quality today. Etisalat, now you're talking. A new day is almost a clean slate.
It's on business news this morning.
Time to take some business stories. The federal government has again assured foreign investors of good returns on their investments in the nation's economy as Poland seeks to improve on existing $100 million trade volume with Nigeria. Poland's Deputy Minister for Economy, who was on a working visit to Nigeria, was at the Ministry of Finance, where the Minister of State for Finance, Bashir Yuguda, told Polish businessmen to invest in Nigeria's revolutionary plan. Ambassador Yuguda said government is working hard on policies geared towards increasing foreign investment into the country.
We have built institutions to fight corruption, which is very key for any business to flourish. Mr. President has also encouraged the business government to be talking so that we can work policies that are not just made by government alone, but in consonance and with active participation from the private sector.
The minister told the visiting team that opportunities abound in the transport sector, fish production, as well as ICT. He was also optimistic that Polish vehicles currently being test-run in Nigeria would favor the Nigerian market.
We have more and more, not just trade-related activities of our business communities, but we have the actual investments.
This is coming just as the bill seeking to enable production of Nigerian cars and tires passes second reading on the floor of the Nigerian Senate. Moving ahead now, the Ministry of Finance has released a list of oil marketers whose subsidy claims had been paid by the federal government. The ministry, in a newspaper advertorial, said it had paid a sum of 24.7 billion naira to oil marketers whose claims had successfully gone through the verification process from the Petroleum Products Pricing and Regulatory Agency, PPPRA. It says the affected companies collectively made significant contributions in the volume of petrol imported and supplied in the country. In addition to cutting the quantity imported and refined by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, it's noted that it is part of a transparent management of the subsidy scheme, which suffered some integrity trial that led to a nationwide uproar following government attempts at discontinuing with it in January 2011. It also added that the legitimate petroleum marketers with import approvals must endeavor to legally earn their pay. The PPPRA also steadily cuts down the number of marketers it engaged in the regime. The agency had in its third quarter import allocation cuts down the number to 27 from 40 in the previous quarter. Finally, on the business package this morning, the Customs Service, Port Command and Terminal Multi-Services Limited, PTML, have released the harmonized system code for imported vehicles following a protest staged by clearing agents at the port last week after the Trade Facilitating Agency attempted to begin enforcement of 35% increase of automobile imports in line with a revived National Automotive Policy implementation. The harmonized code, also known as Harmonized Commodity Description and Coding System, is an internationally standardized system of names and numbers to classify traded products and their tariffs. Clearing agents at the port had alleged that the Port Customs Command had commenced collection of 35% duty levy on imported vehicles. The alleged move made the agents operating at the terminal to withdraw their services. But the Customs Area Controller of the PTML Command for Lawrence Shaw Adegoke told journalists that his command was only currently collecting 35% tariff on used vehicles. He also confirmed the release of harmonized service codes for imported used vehicles and advised licensed custom agents to use it appropriately. He noted that the new levy is not applicable until December 31, 2014. And that's the business package. Thanks for watching and do have a very wonderful week ahead. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Shehu, for the business package. Now it's time for us to look at the papers. Okay, Bayo Atuyebi, as usual, is here with us for the paper review this morning. Bayo, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, we begin our paper review this morning with the Vanguard, but there are at least 2 or 3 stories that are common to the front pages of the papers that we'll be reviewing this morning. Claire also has, there are stories from the Northeast where the defense and security forces are engaging the insurgents, and there is also politics and, of course, school resumption. We begin, of course, with Vanguard, and just below the name flag of the Vanguard is a story that says Boko Haram terrorists surrender to troops in Kunduga and beg for mercy. That's according to Defense Headquarters. The details of that story can be found on page 8. But the lead story of Vanguard says Shekau feared killed in Kunduga attack. And of course, there's a rider there, a 3-decker rider, that says the process of confirming that the dead body we have is the same as that character who has been posing as Shekau is ongoing. Of course, that should be in quotes because it's referring to one of the defense sources. Also on the front page of Vanguard are promotional copies just below the photograph there. One of the stories that says 400 million naira mortgage scam tears NLC apart. NLC is the Nigerian Labour Congress. Ebola, confusion over schools resumption, page 6. And governors glad with confab report on states creation in Southeast. Details to be found on page 13. And also, very quickly, I take The Nation. The Nation newspaper has as its lead story a different slant to the news coming out of the Northeast. Boko Haram to free 219 Chibok girls in swap deal. Boko Haram to free 219 Chibok girls in swap deal. It says that there are details, of course, to be found on pages 4 and 9. But there are two riders to that lead story. Government to release 18 key sect members. And also Defense Headquarters probes report on Shekau's condition. That's, of course, the lead story I read earlier from Vanguard. Then also on the front page of The Nation, it's a story there. There's a photograph. That's the photograph you see on the screen there. The lucky survivor, that's the caption. It's a South African, Lindwe Ndwande, 33 years old, and she was crying as she spoke at the weekend in Lagos about her survival after 5 days in the rubble of the collapsed church guest house of the Synagogue Church of All Nations. That's the photograph of the survivor. They're very touching photograph. But of course, there's a story that is adjacent to it. Synagogue, South Africa sends plane to fly back injured nationals. South Africa sends plane to fly back injured nationals. And also on the front page of The Nation, Jonathan to determine Sambo's fate, and PDP seeks power to pick running mate to president. That's the rider to that story. And also on the front page of The Nation, just above the name flag, don't shift posts, APC warns. That's page 4. Nigerians would accept plan. That's the rider. And also on the front page there, just news notes. News. IBB extends medical trip abroad. Details to be found on page 4. And Kadri wins Portuguese trophy. And business, 133 billion naira pension gap at NNPC. And then just to go back again to the back page of Vanguard, Claire, before you come in with your paper. Back page of Vanguard, there's, well, of course, a story there from the Premier League. And the photograph you are seeing there, dejection. Ryan Giggs and Louis van Gaal, right, look dejected after Manchester crumbled to a 5-3 defeat against Leicester City yesterday. Claire?
Okay, let's quickly take a look at the front page of the Daily News Watch. And Daily News Watch is leading with Ebola. It says states fail to agree on schools resumption. Hats rider, Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, others give new dates. And it's followed by a picture story of weapons captured from Boko Haram at Kunduga in Borno State. And of course, inside there, villagers jubilating over the victory. And that caption is seen just above the masthead. Military probes Shekau's death in Kunduga offensive. It's just coming above the masthead there. And has two riders. 5 senior Boko Haram leaders surrender. Details on page 2. Federal government, Red Cross in secret talks with sect over Chibok girls. Details are also on page 2. And treading at the foot there, INEC AGF sued over new polling booths. Details are on page 2. And NCC declares 39.2 million lines inactive. Details on page 4. And PDP releases guidelines for primaries, explains president's adoption. No automatic tickets for governors. Details are on page 4. And that's the front page of the Daily News Watch. And quickly just take the Guardian newspaper. And the Guardian leads with government reneges on promise, collects 70% tariff on vehicles. It's riding with clearing agents, freight forwarders protest, customs blames ministry. Stakeholders say it's ploy by NCS to meet 1.2 trillion naira revenue target. That's the lead story on the front page of The Guardian. And just also on the front page at the left earpiece there, Lagos shifts schools resumption to October 8th. And private public teachers differ. Doctors dismiss risk of Ebola. It's also on the front page. And there are other stories trending just below there. IG orders dismantling of roadblocks. It's just at the foot there. Lagos plans DNA test to identify victims of collapsed synagogue building. And Sanusi links Boko Haram menace to illiteracy, poverty. Okay, that's the front page of The Guardian.
Yes, Claire, let's take also now the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun has on its front page, as its late story, 2015. Sambo's fate hangs. Sambo, of course, is Nigeria's vice president. And there's a writer that says PDP communicates silent on Jonathan's running mate. But, of course, the story I read earlier from The Nation indicated that the PDP had ceded the power to the president to pick his running mate. Also on the front page of The Sun is Northeast APC endorses Atiku for 2015. And details to be found on page 7. Kalu lost Jonathan over PDP Reconciliation Committee. And the writer says he explains his absence. Then at the foot of the front page of The Sun, the front page says, we've killed Shekau again, military claims. Details to be found on page 8. But let's go back again now to The Nation. Just one of the stories from the inside pages. Page 5 of The Nation. Court urged to void INEC's new polling units. That's the story from page 5 of The Nation. Court urged to void INEC's new polling units. And also on that page, page 5, just at the middle of the page, there are state legislators to seek financial autonomy. And also FIROS, arrest 9 for fraudulent recruitment. And we go again to page 6 of The Nation. We take pages 6 and 7 of The Nation. Page 6, the lead story on page 6 of The Nation says, CBN sets June 2015 deadline for uniform account numbers and approves reward scheme cashless stakeholders. That's CBN setting 2015 deadline for uniform account numbers. Then also on that page 6, private school owners support September 22nd resumption, and query Ogun, Oyo, Ekiti, and Osun for postponement. Then on page 7 of The Nation, page 7 of The Nation, there's a story about the late Black Scorpion, Brigadier Adekunle. Adekunle's family calls for autopsy. And there's a writer that says the protest military's plan to bury father without consultation. Claire?
Yes, I think we'll just hand over to Mr. Abayo. Thank you very much.
Well, the intriguing report is that the leader of the insurgents has been killed again. And that draws laughter from people as if he's been dead before, has he been killed again? It seems to be a cat with 9 lives. You will recall that on several occasions they have indicated that he has been killed, and another person has surfaced with the same type of beard and also speaking for them. But this last time, the reports indicate that not only were weapons seized, many of the insurgents had also surrendered at the Konduga front. Actually, the report has it that the insurgents had come to try in an attempt to retrieve some of their leaders, among which is their spokesperson, that were killed in the Konduga front. And that was when they were overwhelmed. Apparently, the report also indicates that the Hilux vans, and particularly the armored car that is often seen with that spokesperson, have all been captured. So far, Yobe State, which is the 3rd state that has been under the emergency rule, has been relatively safe from reports there. It is only 2 local governments, Gujuba and Gulani, that have some elements of the insurgency. Also, Maiduguri may soon enjoy power, because for over about 3 months now, it's been in blackout because of destruction of the electricity facilities there, and the people there have been crying, and the agency responsible for that, particularly the federal ministry, is making efforts to ensure that they restore power. Now, the story that is of concern is Ebola, and when you talk about Ebola, today is supposed to be the day that schools will resume. Apparently, because of a clash between the resumption date and the fact that in another 1 week or so there's going to be Salah public holidays, some state governments in their wisdom have deferred the resumption to the 6th of October, some to 8th of October. Lagos state government is among those that have said that they are making efforts to ensure that facilities are put in place to train the teachers to make sure that by the time they resume, everything will be very much in order. So far, in West Africa sub-region, death toll is put at 2,500, and that excludes Nigeria. Nigeria's death toll has remained at 7, and currently, as we speak, there is no Ebola case in Nigeria at all. Those infected in West Africa is at 5,000. By today, the United Nations mission for emergency for Ebola response is to assume its effectiveness and function from the capital of Ghana in Accra. From there, they will be walking across to Liberia and Sierra Leone to anchor all the initiatives by UN, because UN has now declared that the Ebola is now a worldwide pandemic that must be addressed. However, in the past 3 days, Sierra Leone has been shut down. They shut down all the country with what they call house-to-house talk. The initiative is to visit almost every household, talk to people, find out what they know about Ebola, and if there are any sick persons, they will be tested and evacuated. And that 3 days should be ending at the end of today. And the initiative is to make sure that they stem the spread of Ebola. So far in Sierra Leone, they have lost 550 to Ebola.
Just to add to what you're saying, Bayo,
yes.
Incidentally, the Sierra Leone authorities are considering an extension of the duration of the lockdown. Okay. This is because they have found some dead bodies. They have also found dozens of persons who are infected with Ebola. So the lockdown has been very effective, you know, although some of the officials who are on health patrol have also been attacked. So it's been very effective in terms of ferreting out new cases and then knowing precisely how to deal with those new cases. Yeah, I just wanted to add that to what you're saying.
Thank you very much. Yes. And also the latest on the synagogue collapse building. So far now, investigations are going on, but the death toll has risen to 90. By the time NEMA finished, NEMA has brought an update. We lost 90 people in the collapse and 131 were injured. However, South Africa has given its own statistics. It says there were 349 of its nationals who were visited that place. 265 of them have survived. Originally, 96 were injured, and now they've been reduced to 26. Many of them have been cleared, and they are okay because they are of the minor injuries. Among the 26 that are still receiving treatment is a 3-year-old child. So far, they've tried to send in a plane to convey their compatriots that were involved back home. But the South African team of 10 experts are working with the Lagos and the Federal Ministry of Health people to use the process of DNA to identify the people who unfortunately died in the collapse.
Yeah, and Bayo, I mean, you kicked off your discussion this morning by referring to the laughter that was provoked by one of the headlines about whether or not Shakau has been killed again, and therefore whether it has, whether it's a cat with 9 lives. I think that this is it's a pretty serious issue. I say this because the security forces, the intelligence forces, had earlier on indicated that Shekau had been killed. But it appeared that when the new, let's say the new Shekau emerged, there seemed to have been, a focus on him as Shekau rather than focusing on the original Shekau who had been killed. And the simple thing to do, I mean, from any person who's viewing that, is make a comparison of the 2 videos. You and I, we are human beings. We have our own. We have our own idiosyncrasies. We have our own peculiarities. The way I gesticulate is not the way you gesticulate. The way I speak is not the way Claire speaks. And some amongst the intelligence services had indicated that this gentleman is certainly not the original Shekau. But it appeared to be in the popular imagination that he was still the same Shekau now that he has been killed, so that we do not make a myth, as it were, out of him. So another person emerges tomorrow, probably wears wears a false beard and then begins to gesticulate the same way, we say, oh, and actually this is Shekau number 3. This is a guy who has 9 lives, as it were. Clear?
All right, gentlemen, I think that's much we can take. Mr. Bayatebe, except you have 1 or 2 other things to add.
Yes, I wanted quickly to draw attention to the concern about the Nigerian Football Federation. They held their congress at Warri over the weekend, and that is, they've met one of the first congresses that FIFA directed. The next one will be elective congress, which is supposed to come, I think, about 30th of this month. However, before the congress came on last Saturday, there was a High Court ex parte motion prohibiting that congress. So we don't know what is happening now. But however, the feelers coming from the congress is that apparently the Nigerian Football Federation is beginning to get its acts together. And by the time they hold the second elective congress, we hope that all this debacle will have been put behind us. And finally, the other day we were talking about buy made in Nigeria goods. There is encouraging news that from Aba, they manufacture 1 million shoes a day, and this goes to markets in West African sub-region. And their lamentation is that the quality of the shoes that are manufactured here with us in Aba are as good as some of those that are imported. But because of lack of patronage, that bold initiative may suffer. And therefore, if we begin to buy made in Nigeria goods, begin to patronize it, not only will they be encouraged, it will be an avenue for creating employment.
Kingsley, I won't give you the opportunity to respond. We don't have enough time for this.
I'm not going to respond to that. I just wanted to add some piece of information. It is not just the shoes they make.
Okay.
Also, we discussed this, the CTG, that is the tailoring, that's the cotton, tailoring and garment subsector. Aba is quite famous, for that. But unfortunately, I mean, we have also heard of a state government that imported school uniforms from outside the country, whereas Aba is just around the corner.
Yes, I think we just need to, what we need to do is reorientation. And this is where the NOA comes readily, important. I don't know.
If you remember, the Asian Tigers countries that we so acclaim for their development, part of their policy was to that anything we cannot produce, we don't need. They shut their doors and began to use what they have internally. Our consumption disposition is what is killing us. It is undermining our manufacturing capacity and productive capacity. Yes.
All right, Mr. Barrett, off we go to another segment, but we'd like to thank you for the paper review.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria GMN. We'll pause for a while. We'll be back.
As long as we Nigerians close all our public institutions because of Ebola, the dispatches that go through the whole world is that Ebola is a problem in Nigeria. And as long as we are declared Ebola is a problem in Nigeria, any Nigerian that travel out will be treated as somebody with Ebola. We've been able to manage Ebola, the whole world is happy with us. And we must tell the world that we have managed Ebola and no Nigerian should be segregated because of Ebola. Ebola is in the West Coast. It could go to Ghana, could happen in Ghana, it could happen in Senegal, it could happen in any of the West African countries or even beyond. But they have not closed down their institutions. If we still have an Ebola case, definitely we will not open the institutions.
There is an Ebola virus epidemic in some West African countries. The Nigerian government wants you to be aware and watch out against the spread of Ebola in your community. Help keep our country safe. Refer anybody coming into Nigeria from any other West African country.
Some of the schools in their states enough time to make adequate preparations. Now let's take into this background report by Anne Jibono just to lead us to our main discussion.
Private and public primary and secondary schools in Nigeria were given a directive to resume on the 13th of October by the federal government. Government's action followed the outbreak of the Ebola virus disease in Lagos. The decision was taken after meetings between the federal government and stakeholders in the education and health sectors. Thereafter, there were a series of other meetings and strategic efforts by government to curb the Ebola virus, after which the virus was finally contained in the country. The Minister of Health, Professor Onyebuchichukwu, then declared Nigeria Ebola virus-free. While announcing the shift in the resumption of schools, Minister of Education Ibrahim Shekarau charged all state ministries of education to immediately organize and ensure that at least 2 staff in all public and private schools are trained on how to handle any suspected case of Ebola and also embark on immediate sensitization of all teaching and non-teaching staff in all schools on preventive measures. President Goodluck Jonathan said the October 13 date had to be reviewed since Nigeria had no Ebola virus case, and any extension in the resumption date for schools would send the wrong signals.
As long as we Nigerians close all our public institutions because of Ebola, the dispatches that go to the whole world is that Ebola is a problem in Nigeria. And as long as we are declared Ebola is a problem in Nigeria, any Nigerian that travel out will be treated as somebody with Ebola. We've been able to manage Ebola, the whole world is happy with us. And we must tell the world that we have managed Ebola and no Nigerian should be segregated because of Ebola. Ebola is in the West Coast. It could go to Ghana, could happen in Ghana, it could happen in Senegal, it could happen in any of the West African countries or even beyond. But they have not closed down their institutions. If we still have an Ebola case, definitely we will not open the institutions.
So far, reports from the state say Rivers State has fixed October 9th for resumption of schools. Cross River State is providing 14,500 naira to assist each school in the state prevent the spread of the virus. In Lagos State, gadgets to prevent the disease are being expected in schools. Anambra and Abia State all appear set for schools to resume, while in Kano State, the National Association of Proprietors and Private Schools has resolved to return to school today. Schools in Benue State are also to resume, while schools in some local government areas in the northeastern parts of the country have also planned to resume academic activities today.
Okay, thank you there, Anjibuno, for that background. We are being joined now by the Executive Chairman of the Federal Capital Territory Universal Basic Education Board. He is Alhaji Umar Nengi. Alhaji Umar, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay, let's establish, as it were, first principles. And we all know that for some decades, as it were, all states have not resumed on the same date for primary and secondary schools. For public and also for private schools, usually you have a difference of either 1 week or thereabout. And in some cases also, some schools remain closed because the teachers were on strike. But 2014 has presented an exceptional circumstance on account of the Ebola incident that was imported into Nigeria by the late Liberian-American Patrick Sawyer. There were several conditions that were required to be satisfied, to be met by all states, that's to say the National Council on Education, as a condition, as it were, for schools to reopen. Today, a number of schools are reopening in some parts of the country, FCT, of course, being one of them. How prepared are you in the FCT for resumption today?
Well, thank you, sir. Let me say from the beginning that education being on the concurrent list, that explains why sometimes states differ in case of resumption. Now, on the preparedness of FCT to reopen schools, let me also say that we are fully prepared, and that our schools will, or in fact, are being reopened as we speak. In fact, most of them should have reopened by now, because we normally open us from 7 o'clock. Now, what the authority in FCT started with was a sensitization program where the school administrators, that is the principals, vice principals, other school administrators, the Parents Teachers Association, the school-based management committees, and all others, even in the headquarters of our own boards, were all sensitized through various lectures organized in liaison with the relevant health organizations. Now, when we were satisfied with the sensitization exercise, the fumigation of schools then commenced, where areas where you have these bats, even where you have very long trees, we insist that they are all fumigated. The birds are, in fact, no longer in our schools now. We now moved to the area of training of the teachers. Teachers were nominated, 2 each from all the schools. All our schools in FCT nominated 2 teachers. And they were given intensive training on the use of gadgets that are being bought or have now been bought by the FCT administration and distributed to schools, on how to use them and how to react in case of an emergency, how to report to a response team, etc. Now, these 2 teachers are supposed to cascade what they are able to learn to other teachers and, of course, to the pupils, so that the pupils will be drilled on in case of emergency, this is what you should do. Now, when all these have been established, the authority, the FCT administration, was on the other side organizing procurement of the gadgets that are needed in the schools, like the temperature measuring machines, like the sanitary soap, sanitizers, bleach for washing of toilets, gloves, and all other things. And these items, as at Friday last week, have all been supplied, to the extent that all our schools by Saturday had received what will be sufficient for them to open the schools. Why I say this is because what the FCT administration did was to provide funds that will be sufficient to supply these items for a period of 3 months. That is from now to December, when schools will close. And that, of course, will be the end of the year. So far, all these items have been provided, and I want to reiterate that our schools are ready to reopen and are being reopened by now.
Okay, one of the basic requirements for schools resumption is the availability of water for hand washing. Yes. Are you saying that if we take a tour of all the schools in the FCT, we will find functional taps running?
Yeah. Let me even say that most of our schools have existing water system running. Most. I'm not saying all. Because there is a program being funded by the Universal Basic Education Commission and the MDGs, as well as the FCT administration, deliberate program towards provision of water and toilet facilities in all our schools. This had been on even before the coming of Ebola. And where schools do not have running water, provision has been made by the FCT administration to distribute water through water tanks. We have made provision of water reservoirs in the schools, and water tanks will be going around to distribute water. As from yesterday, it started, and buckets and cups have also been distributed along with liquid soaps, so that when pupils come immediately after the normal morning assembly, they will be lined up to be washed, so that it will be dropping like if it were a tap, so to say, so that they will be washing their hands and passing into classrooms.
Okay, let me ask you, just hazard a picture of what is happening right now in one of your schools. The schools have resumed. What do you think will be happening right now as the pupils or students get into their school premises and into the classroom?
Well, as I said, when students come, they don't enter classroom straight. They normally go for the morning assembly where the school authority addresses the pupils, and that is a normal routine even without Ebola. Now, what has been organized, or what they have been told to do now, is immediately after the normal assembly, they will line up class by class to undergo this ritual of washing of hands.
They would have they would have entered into their classrooms.
No.
Mingled with each other.
No.
Before this is done.
No. When they come at the gate, the temperature measuring machine, that is where it will start being used. Then when the child is okay, he will now be allowed into the school and reports to the assembly ground. Some will report to the assembly hall where it is available. Now, it is there after the normal assembly, the washing of hand will now take place.
All people.
All of them, thereafter they enter their classes.
Well, the question to ask is, well, this is applicable to public schools.
Yeah.
What is happening to private schools?
All private schools have undergone all these trainings, and they have been told to provide all these items. And in fact, let me even say that most of them were even quick in provision of these items even before the public schools. The Department of Quality Assurance that supervises these private schools had confirmed that even before the end of last week.
What we find, obviously, is as follows. Yeah. High temperature alone is not sufficient to diagnose an individual as being with the Ebola virus. Mm-hmm. And there are all kinds of other ailments. School children, of course, are predisposed to all kinds of ailments as well.
Truly, yes.
Does this now represent a new paradigm in healthcare delivery, as it were, to primary and secondary schools? Are you thinking, for instance, of compulsorily establishing sick bays in public institutions? Because most private schools, I'm aware of that, have it.
Well, let me even say, in most of our schools, we have sick bays. In fact, all of them. We distribute these boxes, first aid boxes, and they have, person that, normally supervises their health concerns. But let me also say that the PTAs and the MCMBs have been told that if a child has malaria, he should not be sent to school. They have been told malaria and related diseases, once a child is diagnosed to have that, he should not be brought to school at all. He should be treated at home, and after they are satisfied that the child is well, and that is when he will be brought into our schools.
If you say treated at home, I take that to mean that treated by a medical expert, perhaps as an outpatient.
That's true, yes.
Okay, not being treated at home by the parents.
No. What we are saying is that, well, parents cannot establish that a child has malaria. Yeah. So only the medical personnel that can do that. Yeah. So once it is established that a child has malaria, all the parents need to do is to inform the authority that my child is sick, so will not be able to send him, so that he will not be registered as an absentee, but he will be registered in the list of sick people that absent themselves with excuse.
Okay, yes. Kingsley, in the event that while testing a student or people, who has come to school, and you find that the person has high temperature, what do you do? Do you just set aside?
A response team had already been established.
In all the schools in FCT?
No, in FCT as a state, kind of. Okay. So once you have, and all schools have, some medical facilities near them, not necessarily attached, but near. What they have been told is immediately you notice a person, This is the reporting line. First report to a medical personnel who will now look at the pupil or the child, and once he is satisfied that the child is sick to the extent that he will be referred to the next secondary level, and they will do so appropriately.
Okay, Alhaji Ninge, we'll just take a break. We'll come back to continue with this discussion. It's top of the hour, and we rejoin Lydia Sampson for the top stories.
Thank you, Claire. Here's an update of the news. President Goodluck Jonathan left Abuja yesterday morning for New York to attend the 69th UN General Assembly. President Jonathan had stopped over in London for a private visit. While in New York, the president will attend a special reception to be hosted by U.S. President Barack Obama and the Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon. Secondary and primary schools are expected to resume in parts of the country today for the 2014 and 2015 academic session. However, reports says some states have decided to push forward the resumption date for this Monday to other dates in order to accommodate other seasons. As Nigeria joins the international community to mark the United Nations International Day of Peace, the First Lady, Dame Patience Jonathan, has also urged the citizens to strive towards the promotion of peaceful coexistence amongst them for the country to prosper. The Minister of State Power, Mohammed Wakil, has described President Goodluck Jonathan's achievements in the power sector as unrivaled in the history of the country. He said the Northeast is particularly grateful for many power projects in the region despite insecurity challenges. It's back to Kinsley and Claire for the rest of Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Lydia. Now, if you've just joined in, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And our topic for discussion this morning is the school's resumption today. And we have right here in the Abuja studio the Executive Chairman, FCT Universal Basic Education Board, Elijah Umar Barao Ningi, who is still here with us. But of course, we'll also like to introduce joining us in this conversation from our Bini Network Center, the Edo State Commissioner for Basic Education, Patrick Agunede. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Agunede.
Good morning from Benin.
Quickly tell us, what's the state of schools in your state now? Have all schools resumed?
Well, we have taken a decision to resume, and about now, I'm sure the students and the teachers are back to class. We took the decision to resume because right in our state, we are very privileged and lucky not to have recorded any case of Ebola virus in Edo State. And besides that, the managers of education and the health status in the country, just that is the Minister of Health and the Minister of Education, met with all the commissioners of education in the state, and the situation in the country was appraised in relation to this, the initial stage that led to the postponement of resumption. And we discovered that Ebola virus has been curtailed at least up to about 99%. And based on that, we are giving the September 22nd to resume. And conditions were also spelled out to be met for the resumption. As a state, we have met the conditions. And what we did initially was, when we got back home, we called all the stakeholders in the education industry, namely the principals of all the secondary schools, the headmasters of the primary schools, the Nigerian Union of Teachers, the proprietors of private school owners. We called the School Management Based Committee. We called the Association of Classroom Teachers. We called the education secretaries, and we met as stakeholders in this education industry, and we discussed the message from the Federal Ministry of Education and the Health Ministry, and we looked at our state and decided, we spelled out the conditions that were given to us, And we also resolved that, well, we must begin strong enlightenment campaign, firstly, to identify what are these possible symptoms, or what is this Ebola about? How do we know Ebola? How will the ordinary man or the ordinary teacher in the class know Ebola? So with that, with the possible symptoms that are, associated with Ebola as a disease, and thereafter we resolved that, yes, we'll embark on by senatorial district, in the 3 senatorial districts in Edo State, we embarked on sensitization, campaign. And this has been on. We also went as far as appointing Ebola desk officers in all the states in Edo State.
Earlier on, Elijah Ningi here shared with us what is expected to happen as students and pupils resume this morning. He has told that, of course, right from the gate, students will be tested, of course, with the thermometer. What is the picture in your schools at the moment? It's some minutes past 8 o'clock. Moment.
We define the procedure that one, the infrared thermometer that were procured by government and distributed to school, as you are coming into the school compound, you are tested. That is to determine your temperature range. And after that, the people enter inside the school compound, they go straight to the wash hand basin and wash their hand with the sanitizer, because we have automatic soap dispensers and means with Dettol, as in line with the prescription that we were given. And after you wash your hand, you drop your bag, then you come for the assembly. As against the normal routine, that way you go to the assembly directly. So after the assembly, you proceed to the class. Then in the morning, the first major lesson to be delivered is that the teacher, who are also a stakeholder in the education, go straight by sensitizing these pupils, one, on the hygiene practices to be adopted in all the classes and the possible symptoms of this Ebola. So these are the first approach to it as soon upon resumption.
Honorable Agunede, who is speaking to us from the Benin Network Center, and also Alhaji Umar, who is here with us in the Abuja studios. We all know that the current outbreak of Ebola in West Africa, which has become one of global concern, started from a remote location somewhere in Guinea. Now, you both have spoken of the protocols to be adopted and the various measures also that have been put in place. Now, I'm asking Honorable Agunede, who is speaking to us from Benin, what is the status of schools in rural areas? Yes, you have spoken to principals, you have spoken to all stakeholders. In the urban centers, they are easier to monitor. What are you doing with regard to the rural areas?
Well, in our state, we see education as one, whether rural or urban area. What we have done is that we are conscious of the fact that in the rural area, that we have some areas without water. What we did was that we made arrangement for tankers, water tankers to be in place, and drums, to ensure the easy distribution of water to those areas because of the limitation of water in those areas. And the teachers, when we were embarking on the training, the teachers in the rural area were not left out in the training. And we have put in place, desk officers as well as chief inspectors of education and education secretary to monitor along and instantly report back, to the ministry, the health status and health situation in all the schools right there. And beside that one, you know that the first contact of the child is the home. That is why we involved the school-based management committee in our trainings and in our discussion. Firstly, we stress strongly that a child, first of all, is seen by his parents before he goes to the school. That any child that is with fever or those associated, signs of Ebola, that child should not report to the school. But in the rural area, if that problem, is noticed, then also instantly there are hospitals within the area. So we are not having the difficulty of handling, or we don't have a formula of handling the urban area separate from the rural area. We are taking it as one in a holistic measure.
Well, again, just to follow up on that question, Honorable Agunede, Yes, you are providing water through the use of tankers, but we also know that there could be instances where certain persons may decide to use the water. Are you following up with public enlightenment and say that, look, this is water specific for hand washing for Ebola? Probably you put some additive to it. I don't know, maybe bleach or some other thing that can be used to disinfect. That is one. Then go back again to the rural areas. Certainly, persons in the rural areas have their own ways of life. In the course of discussing Ebola over the last 2 months, or almost 3 months, or 2.5 months now, with Claire and various guests on this program, we've also talked, experts have talked about the need to avoid bushmeat. But you know, in the rural areas, there are some persons who would say, look, let me go and check my trap, whether it caught some bushmeat before I come to class. What are you doing in terms of enlightenment in that particular regard? What they should avoid, in the interim, as it were, until some other time is considered safe by the experts.
Mr. Kisley, I'd like to tell you straight that one, yes, the possibility may exist or arise where there may be diversion of water, but we have put strong control measure on ground to ensure that water gets to the school even before resumption. And beside that one, we have strong monitoring team, such as, the desk officer, where the headmaster himself is also a part of it. The principals are involved. If there are no water, they have the direct line of the commissioners and the CIEs and the education secretary that are within that particular local government. I am sure that just now we are not likely to experience diversion on of water. But when it arises, we will deal with it swiftly. Then beside that, the possibility also exists that when you have people who have been used to bushmeat, they will say no, that we will eat bushmeat. Apart from the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Information, through the network service, the federal ministry, and the state ministry, on daily basis they are on air, sensitizing the people on the need, to stay away from such bushmeat like grass cutter, bats, and other monkeys. We are doing that at our various levels. We are organizing seminars, we are organizing training with the principal intent of dissuading them, from this. It might be difficult to achieve it at once, but because you know that these are things that have been with the people over time, and people are very, very, when they hold on to a tradition, they hold it tenaciously. But we are doing our best to ensure that education is the key word, and enlightenment, because nobody wants to die. And we have also been able to sensitize them to know that Ebola is deadly. And so on that note, you discover that even the situation we have in our various markets, people look at bushmeat and they just pass.
Honorable Agudede, we'll pause there and then come back again to Alhaji Maningi. Federal Capital Territory. I mean, some persons will mistake Abuja City as all there is of the Federal Capital Territory. There are also some rural locations in the Federal Capital Territory. So the same question that we posed to our discussant from the Commissioner for Basic Education at Edo State, we'll also like to ask you right here, what is your board, or what has your board done with respect to the protocols that you have discussed here in dealing with pupils and students in primary and secondary schools?
Well, let me say that as was said by my friend from Edo, in education we treat all schools, whether in urban or rural areas, as being the same. The training they went through, the facilities we are providing are all provided both in the urban and rural schools. Let me talk on the issue of water that is mostly going to the rural schools. You see, the water we are providing in FCT is treated water that can be drunk by anybody, because we fear that if we should add bleach or any additive into it, maybe somebody innocently, without knowing, can go and drink the water. So we are providing clean, potable, drinkable water. But the training given to us and to the other school administrators is that this water should be running. It's not, your hand is not supposed to even touch either the reservoir or even the tap. That is supposed to be running when you are washing the hand. So your hand should have been clean by the time you are even maybe closing the tap, or by the time you finish when somebody is pouring water on the hands. It should have been cleaned by then. So we have provided clean water that in the event somebody makes mistake of drinking it, there will not be any problem. And like I said, education is about the only thing that is provided to the remotest area. We are proud to say in FCT that whichever ward you go, no matter how remote, you will find at least a primary school there, and you will see a building constructed by the FCT UBE board. So that is as far as we have gone. We are not treating rural areas differently. They are being treated the same way the urban schools are being treated. Only little difference is, of course, where there is no running water. We now make provision, the way I explained initially.
Well, in the event that some schools have not resumed, what will happen? What is the sanctions mechanism in place?
I really don't want to address that, because I know we have addressed all the head teachers and principals, all of them, before the NUT that normally gives them directives either to open or not to open. And NUT was satisfied that we have provided all the necessary items that they insisted must be provided. And NUT told the teachers and the head teachers that, yes, we are satisfied, go and reopen schools, go and resume. We will go around and see physically that really these things that have been provided, you are using them appropriately, and if there is any correction, the health people that will be going around with will make corrections here and there. And as things progress, if we see any problem, we'll ask teachers not to continue. That was the agreement. So I do not think there will be a school in FCT that will not reopen or that has not reopened by now.
All right, Kingsley, I think Honorable Agunede in Benin and Alaji Barao Ningi will just take another short break. We'll come back to continue with this conversation.
It's cooking. Let's help her. Wait. My mama says before touching food, you should wash your hands with soap. But my hands are clean. I can't see germs, but they're everywhere. Look on this.
Welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, and we're discussing the resumption of schools according to the directive of the federal government. And back to the executive chairman, FCT Universal Basic Education, talking about Elijah Umar Ningi. Let's look at, Kingsley asked you earlier on if there will be repercussions for schools that may not resume within the FCT, and you have said, no, and you're confident that all the schools will resume. Now, is it also a fact that all the schools within the FCT have been provided with the, of course, the scientific instrument, the inferred thermometer, for thermal scan? Are these available in all the schools within the FCT? Do
yes.
they have it?
Yes.
And are adequately trained on the use?
Exactly, yes, they are. We have made that provision. In fact, as I go out of from this program, we'll go around. In fact, we have constituted 8 different teams that will be going around the FCT as from today to see that the only thing we want to check is whether the items provided will be sufficient not to affect academic hours. Exactly. So that where the need for increase arises, now we take note or we increase it, because as we go around, we'll be even going around with spare, equipment to show you that we have enough. The schools have all been provided as at yesterday. all our schools have received the items I mentioned to you. You know, all of them, including sensitizing posters, including, you know, hand gloves, even school where tap is running, we still provided buckets so that if the taps, you know, maybe 10 at a go, you know, you can now bring water so that more pupils can wash hands so as not to affect school hours.
Okay, for those schools in the rural areas that might not have running taps, for which you have made provisions of tanker, you know, to be provided. Schools resume at 8. When are these tankers supposed to get to the schools? When are they supposed to supply these schools with water?
Well, as I said, as at yesterday, all of these schools have water. And now this water will be supplied on continuous basis. And it's not to say, no, if the tanker should go back after 1 day or 2 days. Each tanker that reports to a school, you know, the driver has provided his phone number so that if the water goes to half, the principal will ring the driver that our water has gone half full, so that before it finishes, he will come and refill it. That is how they are trained. They will not allow it to finish.
Well, Alhaji Umar, I will return to you, but I just wanted to get back to Honorable Gwenede, the Edo State Commissioner for Basic Education. It's a question I also would like Alhaji Umar, who is with us in Abuja, to take cognizance of in responding subsequently. We all know that in Nigeria, we are very enthusiastic about new things. It's like building a new road, but maintenance culture is our major challenge. So infrared thermometers are being provided. We have plans to provide water and all kinds of things. Go back 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 months, with those thermometers still be working. How are we going to ensure that indeed this is a revolving scheme that ensures that we all stay healthy and alive? Honorable Gunedi.
What we have done here in Edo State, we have done a program for 3 months, that's between now and December, for which we have provided all these equipment and kits to run. And on daily basis and on weekly basis, like I told you, we have monitoring teams, surveillance. We are working hand in hand with the Ministry of Health. And as we move around, and if there is any fault emanating or arising from any equipment, then instantly we replace. That is why we did not only procure the number of equipment that we needed, we have procured over, so that if there's anyone that is not functioning, we immediately replace, because this has to do with issue of life and death. And so because of that, you will notice the swift response and the reflexes exhibited by the federal government in curtailing this spread. Every other state also adopted similar measures. And so because of the sensitive nature of this thing, I believe that we are likely not to have this neglect of equipment. And so based on that, we are taking the matter very seriously. I also like to mention to you that in our state, we have also, to drive further, the enlightenment and the sensitization, we have prepared jingles in local languages and in pidgin English, so that the ordinary peasant and not the ordinary man in the rural area will understand what we are talking about. And so, as long as there is a monitoring team comprising the commissioner, the commissioner for health, the NUT chairman, the chairman of PTAs, and the chairman of school-based management committee, and other stakeholders, monitoring alongside with the principals and the headmaster, the tendency or the possibility of, having an equipment that, that is not functioning is likely not to arise. Because if it arises, instantly they have direct communication, not only with the commissioner, with the desk officers, with the CIA and the education secretary. There's going to be a monitoring trend on a regular basis to ensure success.
Thank you, Honorable Gwenede. We now come back to the Abuja studios where we have Alhaji Umar Nengi. I asked the question about how sustainable this new paradigm is.
Well, let me start by saying that this is a matter of hygiene. And all along, hygiene has always been a subject in all our schools. So this is not this is not something that has just started. Hygiene had all along been an issue in our schools, and we insisted that before schools start each day, pupils are inspected to ensure that they are so neat. So on the question of maintenance, the first thing we noticed from the machine is that it requires the use of battery. And we provided packets of batteries to each school, spare batteries, so that they should not allow the system to go down so much. They now put new batteries. And let me also say our schools have impressed, all of them, 8 teachers in primary schools and secondary school, all of them have impressed where they should be able, when the ones provided are exhausted, you know. In fact, the ones that we have now can last more than 3 months. And the intention is that by next year, you know, in our budgets, all the agencies will provide sufficiently for the sustenance of these items in our schools.
Yes. This obviously costs a lot of money. I'm shockingly, that's the basis for this question.
Truly,
sustainability,
precisely.
Sustainability in terms of the cost, you know, and all that.
Exactly. That is why I said initially, like this year, because nobody knew of Ebola before when the budget was being prepared last year, so there was no any provision for Ebola in the budget. But in 2015, I want to assure you that all agencies in FCT will have a subhead that will take care of Ebola requirements in schools.
Is it just Ebola or, I mean?
No, we are making it specifically the issue of general hygiene in the school, not only teaching hygiene, that one had been a subject, but this one is maintenance of this equipment, you know, that are made available.
Well, Alajuma, would like to pause here in the meantime. And we also like to inform our viewers that we're supposed to link up with the Enugu State Commissioner for Education, but unfortunately our link up is giving us challenges. In the meantime, we will take the news briefs now from Lydia Sampson.
President Goodluck Jonathan left Abuja yesterday morning for New York to attend the 69th UN General Assembly. President Jonathan had a stopover in London for a private visit. While in New York, the president will attend a special reception to be hosted by United States President Barack Obama and the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon. The president will be at the 69th United Nations General Assembly to address the Security Council on threats to international peace and security and present Nigeria's statement to the General Assembly on Wednesday. During his visit, the president will hold bilateral talks with the British Prime Minister David Cameron and United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. The president is expected back in the country on Thursday. Secondary and primary schools are expected to resume in parts of the country today, the 22nd of September, for the 2014 and 2015 academic session. This is in line with the federal government's directive based on success story on the containment of Ebola virus disease, which led to the shift in resumption date in the first instance. However, report says some states have decided to push forward the resumption date from this Monday to other dates in order to accommodate other exigencies in governance respective to their states. It will be recalled that President Jonathan had appealed to the Nigerian Union of Teachers and the Nigerian Medical Association to see reason with the decision to reopen the schools. The Senate President David Mark has asked his constituent in Benue State South Senatorial District to keep faith with the People's Democratic Party ahead of the 2015 elections. Addressing the youth leaders from Ado local government at his Otukpo country home, Senator Mark said there is no alternative to PDP in the nation's quest for greatness. As the world marks World Peace Day, Nigeria's First Lady, Dame Patience Jonathan, has continued to advocate the prevention of conflicts through dialogue as a way of building peace. She throws light on her efforts in this direction. Meanwhile, as Nigeria joins the international community to mark the United Nations International Day of Peace, The First Lady, Dame Patience Jonathan, has also urged the citizens to strive towards the promotion of peaceful coexistence amongst them for the country to prosper and continue to play their role as a beacon of hope for Africa and global peace. The First Lady made the call in her message on the occasion of the 2014 International Day of Peace, organized by the Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution in Abuja. The Minister of State Power, Mohammed Wakil, has described President Goodluck Jonathan's achievements in the power sector as unrivaled in the history of the country. Speaking at the peace rally of the Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria in Gombe, Mohammed Wakil said the Northeast is particularly grateful for many power projects in the region, despite the insecurity challenges. And as those are the stories making headlines, it's back to Claire and Kinsley.
Thank you, Lydia Sampson. We are still discussing the issue of resumption of schools across the country today on the directive of the federal government. And as Kinsley said earlier on, we will be joining Enugu Network Center, where Dr. Chris Uche, the Enugu State Commissioner for Education, is already seated. Dr. Uche, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, fellow Nigerians.
Okay, let's quickly ask you what's the state. Have schools in Enugu resumed? And if so, is it strictly in compliance with government's directive?
Resuming today, in line with the directive of the federal government that schools should resume. We in Enugu have done quite a lot of sensitization among the people. We organized training workshop for teachers in line with the directive of the Federal Ministry of Education. 2 teachers from each school in Enugu have been trained. And what they're doing this morning in schools is they're beginning to replicate the training we have given to them on how to use the equipment that have been provided by government. This is happening in public and private schools in Enugu.
What are the trained teachers expected to do on resumption of schools today in Enugu? You have just told us that they are expected to replicate. Replicate what?
Of training we have given to the teachers that attended the training workshop, they will replicate the same teaching to those teachers that were not there, and then the children, the pupils and the students of the colleges. So they will now train them as it is, so that people will also be abreast on what is required to be done. Now, what they have learned included how to use even the thermometer, because many people have not known how to use this non-contact infrared thermometer, which they have now learned. So they will now teach others. And in fact, there should be enough awareness among the pupils on what to do and what not to do.
What is your state government doing with respect to schools in the rural areas?
The schools in rural areas, they're also part of the training, because the people have been, teachers have been drawn from the rural area as well as the urban areas. So it's the same thing they're going to do in the respective schools. Now, we have been interfacing with the local governments. The local government chairmen are well sensitized, they know what to do too. In fact, local government chairmen and the workers in the council are also part of what we are doing. We are interfacing with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Environment. They have units in the local government areas. So they are also part of what we are doing to make sure that in the case of any eventuality, that prompt action is taken. Meanwhile, this week is devoted for making sure that the children know what they're supposed to know. That is the reason why we are saying there is no need to continue to stay at home. Because if they come back to school, now the necessary teachings will take place. It's not just enough, because we cannot be teaching them while they are at home. sometimes the students or the pupils pay more attention to what the teacher is saying than even what the parents are saying. So we are aware of that. So that's the reason why this week we're devoting it in Enugu to now making sure that all children, all teachers are very well knowledgeable. We have even gone ahead to publish a very good brochure that contains all you need to know about Ebola virus disease. And this has also been distributed so that so those who are going to do the training within the school, they have the materials already, resource materials to do the work. While on our own part from the ministry and other agencies under the ministry, we monitor to see that there is compliance in what we are doing.
Dr. Uche, our two other guests, the Honorable Commissioner speaking to us from the Benin Network Center and the chairman of FCT UBEB in the FCT, Alhaji Mandingi, they've discussed how they are supplying water to the rural areas where, for instance, there is no running water. What is the Enugu state government doing in this regard? And we also raised the question about our social habits, socio-economic habits in rural areas, where school children, pupils, or students may wish to go and check their snares in the morning to see whether their traps have caught any bushmeat and so on and so forth. What are you doing in terms of water supply and also addressing some of those habits that are potential sources of an outbreak?
I think we have done quite a lot of sensitization through radio, television, and all that. But the more important thing we need to note is that before the outbreak of Ebola, we have had emphasis on having clean water in schools. Just for example, before I approve any school, there must be evidence that there is a source of water in the school. So it's not new. We're not just beginning to send water to schools because water is already there. So the only emphasis we are making now is to make sure that where there is any chance of not having water, that water is provided. It's one of the conditions for running school. There must be clean water, and there must be people who now get the water to the place. We have principals and the head teachers in schools. They have their duty to do. So we are not just, it's not a new thing to us here in Enugu. We are just trying to facilitate to make sure that things are put in place. We don't have any problem with, you know, when you tell people to desist from consuming bush meat, you know, people hear it, but those who are not ready to adhere to it, that's the problem. But effort is being made to be sure that people desist from consuming bush meat. And people, in fact, there was a story that was in the newspaper last week that bush meat sellers in Enugu have resorted to selling fish, so in order to survive, because people are not even buying the bush meat. So it's, the awareness is high in our system here. So there's no question of people going back to the issue of bush meat.
Uche, from our Enugu Network Center, that's the much we can take from you on this discussion. We do thank you for obliging us your presence. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And of course, Alhaji Umar Barau Ningi, we thank you for staying with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This is Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a break.
Day, where were you?
I need a dry away.
You need a smarter way. Always keeps you 3 times drier.
One always instead of 3 other pads, and I'm drier. I'm smarter today.
Delat rather sold himself. He's looking for Van Persie. Right on cue. Robin Van Persie off and running for the season. Di Maria. A lovely change of pace. Rooney. Di Maria has continued his run, and Di Maria goes for the finish, and that is a sensational goal. Absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely stunned the crowd here. I mean, they see that they're in the presence there of what was a truly fantastic goal.
Well, credit to some of the Leicester supporters, even they applauded Di Maria's effort. Chance at the other end, one back, Leonardo Ulloa. Maybe lift off for Leicester. Raphael, lovely ball in, carried by Schmeichel. Van Persie, Di Maria, deflected and in. Herrera wheels away, and Manchester United have restored their 2-goal cushion. 10 seasons outside the elite. Leicester giving a good account of themselves despite trailing here. No foul by Vardy. And then Raphael responds and gives away a penalty. What a naive piece of defending. 10 goals from the penalty spot last season. And his first of this. Leicester still alive. Two Manchester United players going for the same ball. Dean Hammond. And there's Cambiasso! What a comeback by Leicester! Rampaging upfield is Delat. Vardy in the middle. This could be a huge moment. Vardy scores! And it's pandemonium in Leicester. Beaten by Vardy, who's in again. And Vardy, Blackett with a tackle, penalty, and it could be a red card this as well. Manchester United's day is just about to get even worse. Blackett game. Leonardo Ulloa. Leicester have 5. Leicester are heading towards dreamland.
All right, we'll put a stop to sport here. The program continues shortly.
Put a cup of jig in the water will get school uniforms whiter, and it is the tough stain fighter that will get your whites much brighter. Just Chickens! Pot puree and lemon. Just Chickens! Hey, you better go get it! Now available in lemon and pot puree fragrances, the newest and freshest way to chickens.
What is going on?
Haven't you heard? Samsung and Etisalat are having the most amazing free data and smartphone offer ever!
Hello?
Babe, you can now get all Samsung smartphones at the lowest prices at Etisalat Experience Centers or any authorized Samsung dealer.
Yes, I know. First, you get up to 1.5 gigabytes free data once.
Okay, on to foreign news now. Hamas blames Israel for the increasing number of Gaza immigrants in Europe, saying Israel's continued attacks have left them with no choice but to flee. Here is Nnamdi Odupo with the details.
Hello and welcome. Hamas has blamed Israel for the hundreds of Palestinian migrants who have left Gaza with their sights set on Europe. Hamas spokesperson in Gaza, Salem al-Bawil, said the most of the migrants left Gaza via the Rafah crossing on the border with Egypt. The devastating war with Israel has swollen the number of Palestinians in the blockade Gaza Strip, joining the perilous exodus by sea of migrants fleeing conflicts in the Middle East and Africa for dreams of a new life in Europe. Palestinians with knowledge of smuggling tunnels operations under the Egypt-Gaza border say between 1,500 and 2,000 Gazans have left the enclave for Europe in the past 4 or 5 months. In France, we have a report which says that the country's president, François Hollande's popularity fell to a record low this month, with only 13% of those surveyed saying they were satisfied with the French president. This was a drop of 4% points from a month earlier and marks Hollande's lowest approval rating since he became president in May 2012. And a deal to form a government of national unity in Afghanistan has been signed at the ceremony in Kabul. The signing, broadcast live on national TV, comes after months of wranglings for the presidential elections in May and June. Under the deal, Ashraf Ghani becomes president, while runner-up Abdullahi nominates a CEO with powers similar to those of Prime Minister. The final result of the bitterly contested poll is due to be announced. And finally, Kenyans have marked the one-year anniversary of the Nairobi Westgate shopping mall attack, where members of the militant group Al-Shabaab killed at least 67 people during a 4-day siege. The standoff was focused around the Nakumatt supermarket inside the mall, one of Kenya's biggest chains, where the attackers held hostages and 3 staff died. Supermarket management and staff were joined for prayers by members of the public, many of whom were survivors or those who lost relatives.
All right, that's it on Good Morning Nigeria for today. We thank you for joining us. I am Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak. Have a very good day.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. It's also been my pleasure having you tune in to us today, the program which came to you live on the network service of the NTA. Do have a lovely day. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning.